Today I'm gonna be poking fun at our childhood, hope you guys don't mind. Oh, you do? Well, you might as well click off, cause I'm gonna do it anyway. Yes, that's happening. Do you guys remember Totally Spies? I didn't really get into it until sometime around 2013, over a decade after it came out. Brought to us by Marathon and Moonscoop. Yeah, Moonscoop, the same people that gave us these legends. I never watched this. Totally Spies was an animated adventure show about what would happen if we made James Bond, but teenaged, and have 3 of them, and make them all girls, and make it rated PG. Well, fret not, viewer, because I'm about to answer that exact question by reviewing the first episode. The theme song had lyrics? The episode opens up with these 2 random music store workers talking about some pretty boy named Ricky Mathis, who is supposedly a pop singer. If them talking shit about him wasn't enough of a hint, yes, these 2 are probably metalcore fans. But their screen time is short-lived as the store opens and they both die supernatural intro style, trampled by a mob of Ricky's fans. This was the scene that inspired Travis Scott's music career. Yes, I live in Houston, Texas, why do you ask? Cut to Beverly Hills High, where we meet our protagonists strolling down the hallway talking about what best friends they are when suddenly Clover sees a charming-looking guy in the quad serenading the gals in school with a guitar. Marathon animation be like, tell me you're not over Kurt Cobain without telling me you're not over Kurt Cobain.
I think I'm in love. Must find out who he is.
Don't worry, the voice acting gets better later in the series. Totally smitten, Clover attempts to seduce Kurt Cobain's lookalike with a pickup line no self-respecting man could resist.
What do you say we go out after school? I'll even let you buy me a non-fat latte.
You will? Okay.
Yes, even this show has a pick-me-girl antagonist archetype. This one happens to be Clover's arch-rival in the school, called Mandy. Mandy shuts Clover down, but she manages to keep face just long enough to leave the quad and find a nice corner where she, Alex, and Sam can commiserate. But suddenly, out of nowhere... And here's where Clover gets meta, foreshadowing the entire show with this one line.
Is it me? Or do our missions only occur during times of major personal crisis?
Whoop whoop! Oh yeah, the 3 girls are also covert spies. Could you please keep up with the lore? Long story short, the girls are tasked with finding out why people all over the world are going cuckoo bananas over Ricky Mathis, who didn't become famous until last night with 1 viral single. Keep in mind, this was before YouTube, so that's what makes it criminal, apparently. The girls are tasked with going undercover as an opening band to snoop around and find out what the deal is. Don't worry, they come up with something super original and imaginative for their band's name.
We're called the Spies? That is so lame.
Yeah, totally unimaginative.
It was my idea.
I wouldn't have taken credit for that! Sam playing bass is vibes. Probably because I'm a bass player myself, and at this point in the show I decided Sam was gonna be my favorite, like the basic bitch I was.
And my personal favorite, a potty.
A whatty?
This becomes a recurring joke in the series. Also, can we talk about how retro chic the pads are in this show? This is a major vibe for someone who's not me. While they get some downtime in this swanked out room, Clover takes the time to call Kurt Cobain to win him over with a fanciful tale that she plays in a band and is touring right now. Even though they just met a few hours ago, so how can she already be in another country on tour with a whole ass band in high school? But he still believes her. Oh god, I forgot how satisfying it is to watch this bitch squirm. Then we meet Phil Jenkins, the tour manager who scares me for reasons I can't explain. He invites the girls up to the penthouse where we hear an uncharacteristically out-of-tune guitar, which wasn't in the script. They were just lazy with finding someone in the studio who could actually give them some decent guitar sound bites. We meet the sweetheart of the show, Ricky Mathis, who has adorable green eyes and a hairstyle that doesn't make sense. The artists could not make up their minds between a hair horn or a middle part, so they suggested, why not give him both, they asked. Because you can't logically have both, Steph said, yelling at a cartoon from 2 decades ago. Also, can we talk about the fact he hangs out with a cardboard cutout of himself while he's alone rehearsing? This is the level of narcissistically extra I strive to be when I become a touring musician, he says, as if that'll ever fucking happen. Ricky invites the girls to join his recording session, which the manager objects to because of naughty reasons. And for once, it's not the naughty reasons we all normally think about when it comes to a shady music manager with his hot rock star charge. We haven't forgotten Lou Pearlman! It's showtime, but Clover manages to find their first clue / piece of evidence the same way they do with every episode in the future. A glowing fucking CD. It's a metaphoric plot device. Those of us who grew up with CDs know how bad a business practice it is to sell CDs that only have one audio track on them. What about all the extra disc space? Conceivably, it was a ploy to smuggle seasons of House of Anubis into the country. Before the girls take the stage, Clover is spotted listening to the tracks Sam took for evidence, not aware of what the CD was about to do to her. I would make a Justin Bieber joke, but I have an aggressive allergy to being sued. The curtain goes up and the girls start playing, but they notice none of their equipment is plugged in and all the sound is coming from a pre-recorded disc. Their first concert and they're already fitting in with the mainstream music industry perfectly. I'm so proud of them. Backstage, during the transition, our spies learn that Ricky himself lip-syncs live concerts under his manager's instructions. Alex protests that that isn't normal. Nah, that's actually pretty normal in the industry. Being a musician myself can confirm. Clover wanting to stay and listen to the concert, Sam and Alex VIP their way up to the manager's booth upstairs, where they discover the booth is completely soundproof because the noise gives Jenkins a headache, quote-unquote.
Sure, Jan.
We all fucking know you have that room to block out the screams of your murder victims. Have I ruined your childhood yet? We're only halfway in, calm the fuck down, I still have more to ruin. After the show, the three return to their suite to unwind and share their findings with their boss, Jerry, who confirms the flower Clover found on her bed were from Kurt Cobain from school. Clover, in an uncharacteristically overcome tone, says she's over him and that Ricky is the only musician she cares about now. Sam also asks Jerry about a guy named Sebastian, who I had to backtrack to find mention of because the only time that name came up prior to this scene was in the manager's booth where Jenkins was distantly talking to on the phone off-screen, so it was easy to miss. Especially if you aren't paying that close attention to that particular scene plot. Gonna dock a few points for that. Jerry finds that he's a former washed-up rock star who lost his arm in a pyrotechnics accident, which the camera conveniently turned away from, so I don't know why Sam and Alex even bothered to turn away. They know damn well that this is a rated PG show. And it turns out he's now a record label holder for Do I Really Have to Tell You? After the call with Jerry, Ricky barges into their suite without knocking to invite the girls to his recording studio on Frau Blucher Island.
Wow. This is definitely the creepiest recording studio I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's because it's designed like a prison, Alex. Here we're introduced to the most cringe lyrics I've ever heard.
I'm Ricky and I'm your master. Follow me as I spread disaster. Take over the government, do as I say. I'll rule the world and you'll obey? Phil, I sort of didn't intend for the new song to be so aggressive.
Jenkins assures him that it'll be all the rage with the more edgy crowd, which is sus as hell because even the edgelord kids back then cringed at those lyrics. Now we finally go into epic spy mode, and Sam learns the hard way of why it's 3 loops and not just 1 and done. Their efforts lead to a dead end, but nothing remains hidden from danger-prone Alex.
Nice work, Alex.
It's a high-tech secret lab under a recording studio. Nothing suspicious here. It is here we are introduced to Sebastian, aka Sephiroth of the early 2000s, and where the girls find out that the music on the glowing CDs is what's used to subliminally control people's minds. They learn that whatever the lyrics are in the song is what the listeners are controlled to do. And the reason I say they and not we is because it was so obvious that we, the viewers, have already fucking figured it out like 10 minutes ago! During this explanation, Alex panics and blows her and Sam's cover, resulting in Sebastian apprehending the both of them. You had one job, Alex. You had one fucking job.
So, the spies are really spies.
How totally lame and unimaginative.
Don't blame us. Jerry thought of it.
Oh, how much I love the joke callbacks. But the burn has so much more meaning coming from an actual musician. Sebastian explains his plans to take over the world using a satellite broadcast of Ricky's new track, and for some reason he waits until he's halfway down the corridor to give us this really forced and out-of-place cackle. "You're not a proper villain without the cackle," said Marathon, winking in our direction, not making it clear whether they're trying to be subversively clever or having a stroke. And here's the scene which solidified Alex as my favorite character.
Great. Now what are we gonna do? We can use those to get out. No, not like that.
Sam and Alex arrive at the concert venue and sneak backstage to warn Ricky about Sebastian's plan, and he seems to take it pretty well. Yeah, pretty well. A lot of the guys in this show don't really seem to have much going on in the upper story, do they? Sam runs off to complete the mission and shut down the radio dish to stop the broadcast. Meanwhile, brainwashed Clover helps bring the mob of brainwashed stans backstage to crowd Ricky because Alex needed something to do, I guess? Sam manages to turn the tables on Sebastian and Jenkins, broadcasting the song exclusively in their helicopter, causing them to crash, and the radar dish explodes for some reason. And here's Jerry, armed with hand gestures? And I'm sorry, but what the fuck is that face? And finally, the manager and producer walk out of the crash with nary a scratch on them, seemingly unbothered by it too. Arrests were made, and bada bing, bada boom, we're back at school the next day, and the effects of the brainwashing have finally wore off, rendering Clover to drop a brutal brush off on Kurt Nobain. He didn't even do anything wrong. He didn't deserve this. 'Tis better this way, though, because he was fawning over a fucking poser anyway!
I just decided that it's really dumb to fall for every guy with a guitar in his hands.
Truer words were never spoken. But then...
Can anyone tell me where the music room is? I'm new and I'm kind of lost.
In her defense, he had a guitar and a recorder in his hand. Well, at least she's consistent. The funniest thing about all this is...